Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from even-explanation-304. AITA for aborting my baby after seeing my boyfriend messaging other women and interacting with them on social media. My boyfriend of 5.5 years has been wanting a baby for a while now, and he asked me many times to have one with him. Before agreeing, I told him I would only have a baby if we agreed to do right by each other and ensure our baby is in a two-parent household, as I want the best for any child I ever have, and don't want them to experience things that I did. We agreed we were on the same page. We tried for months, and finally I was pregnant. A couple of nights ago, I saw he has been responding to women's Instagram stories. During the time we were trying for a baby, I was actually pregnant. We didn't know as it was very early, and he flirted and gave a woman his number. We have had issues like this in the past, but I thought we were on the same page as far as starting a family and both doing right. Now I don't want to be with him as he broke trust and did something I don't want to forgive because he did this while I am pregnant with the baby he begged me for. I feel he will never change if he was willing to do these things while I am pregnant and while trying to conceive. I don't want to raise my baby in a broken home as a single mom and have to do parent. I don't want the baby to have to experience a home with no dad and with me struggling to do it alone. I don't feel like it's fair to the baby or to me. I feel terrible because both of our families know and are very excited. I wanted this baby and family, but now things are not the same. Am I wrong if I choose to abort? OP is not the AH for considering an abortion. Given her boyfriend's repeated betrayal, she has every right for prioritizing her well-being and aborting the child. If she doesn't go for abortion, she may have to face unstable future, which will of course ruin his life. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 and OP's boyfriend 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from SM Gifts Throw A. AITA for immediately donating the gifts my stepmother bought for my children. I, 34F, have no contact with my stepmother, Mary. Long story not worth explaining. Edit. I loosely explained in a comment. It's been 5 years since I cut her off from my and my family's lives. As such, she hasn't seen my son, 8M, since he was 3 years old, and she's never met my daughter, 4F. Throughout the years, she has attempted to contact me and my kids several times. My father used to help her sometimes. He'd tell me how awful she felt, how much she wanted to meet my daughter, and that the kids needed their grandma. I've never considered her a grandparent, as both my mother and mother-in-law are active in their lives. Several fights later, my father apologized and stopped assisting her, but Mary still tries to get in touch with me every now and then. I always state I have no interest in seeing her or allowing her to be a part of my children's lives. My son's birthday was in September. The day of, neither of my kids were home. A large box was delivered to our building. I opened it to find more than a dozen new toys for my children, along with a note that read, "Grandma Mary loves you both." As I later found out, she had bought the toys on a recent trip to the US. I couldn't think of that as anything besides a manipulation tactic. My children are barely aware that she exists. Why would she send them both a box full of toys on my son's birthday? I also think she planned the delivery for a time she thought the kids would be home so that they'd see the toys immediately. Either way, my husband and I decided not to keep any of the toys. We donated them all throughout October. The kids never saw any of them. Last week my father called me. He said Mary had just told him about the toys and wanted to know whether the kids liked them. I told him the truth, and we had an argument. My father called me cruel and ungrateful for what I did. He said he understands Mary and I don't get along, but she still cared enough to spend hundreds of dollars on a loving gesture for my children, and the least I could have done was let them know about it. I honestly couldn't imagine keeping those toys, but I'd be lying if I said the amount of money spent on them didn't make me feel guilty. AITA Edit. Update. Hey guys, thank you for your input. Many of you stated you wouldn't be able to make any judgment without knowing why I have no contact with Mary. I think that's completely fair. I explained it better in the comments, and I recommend reading them. But Mary was awful to me when I was young. I loathe talking about it, though therapy has been helping with that. but it stemmed from the fact that I wouldn't allow her to be a second mother to me. I went into low contact with her in my early 20s, and she'd still treat me like crap whenever I saw her. When my son was born, Mary begged me to give her a second chance. She apologized for upsetting me and promised she had changed. I warned her that if she ever overstepped or even remotely hinted at going back to her old ways, she'd never see me or my family again. To be honest, I'm surprised she lasted 3 years. I didn't clarify that in my original post because not only is this something I have trouble talking about, but I also didn't think it was relevant. I was asking about the donations, not whether I was justified in cutting ties with Mary. But I do agree that it's best to have the complete picture before making judgment calls, so I apologize for withholding that. Another thing I didn't mention is that Mary never had children of her own, and my only sister is child-free. My kids are the only grandchildren in the family, which I think is why Mary wants to see them so badly. Anyway, I went through your comments and organized a list of things I wanted to say to my father. I thought about making one for Mary as well, but I doubt she'd actually listen to it. I spoke to my father on Saturday. He said he talked with his wife. Apparently, Mary bought the gifts because it broke her heart to be unable to watch my kids grow up, and she hoped the toys would at least let them know how much she loved them. My father also said that Mary told him about the gifts. He's insistent he had no idea, because it had been a while, and me and the kids hadn't thanked her yet. My husband and I have our children say "thank you" through voice messages whenever they get a gift from someone who isn't nearby. We've done that for my father before, so I think that's what Mary was expecting. I explained that it didn't matter how thoughtful he thought Mary's gesture was. When I cut ties with her, I cut her off completely. That means no gifts, no phone calls, and no contact with my children, directly or not. She can claim to love them all she wants, but she will never have any involvement in their lives. We had another argument, but I put my foot down. I told my father that if he ever attempts to assist her in any way, or brings up Grandma Mary to my children, he will never see me again. I'll allow him to be a part of his grandkids' lives, but he needs to accept that his wife won't be. Ultimately, my father agreed, but I intend to watch him closely from now on. I don't want to cut contact with him, but this will be his final chance. If he screws this up, he's done. While I'm not 100% confident this will last, I'm still happy with this outcome. I've been going through a fairly stressful time at work, and it feels great to have this weight off my shoulders now. More importantly, I feel like I'm well equipped to deal with whatever comes next. I don't intend to write any further updates. Once again, thank you. Edit. Second update. I really didn't think I'd update again, but I figured I'd let you know that Mary sent us another box. This time, my father warned me. Last week, he sent me a text that read, "Mary is sending Christmas gifts for the kids. I promise I just found out." I was at work, and sure enough, the box was there when I got home. My husband and I managed to take it to our bedroom before our children saw it. The box was smaller than the previous one, and we counted 10 toys with Christmas wrapping inside. 6 for my daughter, 4 for my son. There was also another note, which read pretty much the same as the last one, with an added, "I'm sorry you didn't get my other gifts." I decided to text Mary this time. I unblocked her and wrote the following. "Anything you try to give me or my children will be donated immediately. Please stop attempting to contact us. You will never be allowed near my family." I then blocked her again. This was my first time unblocking, or even contacting, her in 5 years. The next day, I spoke to my father. He said Mary didn't tell him she was sending me the box until after doing so. He'd been out of town for a week at that point, and she hadn't said anything about buying my kids more presents before he left. She let it slip to him over the phone, and then begged him not to tell me. Apparently, Mary was distraught at my text. That's all I know about how she's reacting to this. My father is doing his Christmas shopping right now, and there are a number of reasons why I don't think he was involved in this. Still, I don't feel like I can trust him right now. I told him he will see me and my family less often than usual for the next few months. We'll see each other on Christmas Eve, party at my cousin's. Mary was banned years ago. And then in February for my aunt's birthday, weekend trip. Mary's not coming. Besides that, I intend to remain in low contact with him for a while. I don't intend to keep that up forever, but I want to be able to trust him again. My father said he understood. I know a lot of you wanted me to cut my father off. I'm not sure I can explain why, but I don't want to do that. Even if I did, I'm not ready to. It might happen in the future, and I'm well aware it should be happening now. But I do think we still have a shot at making this work. This entire week was crap. The first time Mary sent us the gifts, I was just confused. This time, I was very upset. I cried when I read her note. I am feeling much better now, though. My husband and I donated the new toys over the weekend, and getting rid of them felt great. I am very glad we managed to protect our children from this. Also, let me add one final time. I came to AITA to ask whether I was wrong for donating the gifts, not for cutting ties with Mary. So, if anyone else intends to tell me I should allow her in my kids' lives, don't bother. I will not budge on this. I don't think I have anything else to add. Thank you all, and happy holidays. OP is not the AH for donating the gifts. She's enforcing clear boundaries with her stepmother to protect her children from a toxic influence, prioritizing her family's well-being and peace over appeasing her stepmom's manipulative gestures is entirely justified. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 and OP's stepmom 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from Cupcake Practical 9626. AITA for not attending my best friend's wedding and not talking to her since. Hi guys, I'm just curious and thought I'll get some outside advice. I had this best friend named Steph. We clicked really well and have all the same likes, etc. I've known her about 3 years. One day, Steph tells me that her and her boyfriend, let's call him Tom, are getting married and would love if I was there. At this time, all of us, me, my husband, Steph, her boyfriend, are all living with my parents. They had got married over a Zoom call since Tom's dad is a pastor, and they had family and friends join the call to be a part of the ceremony. I didn't want to miss it, so I left work early, which counted against me, drove to pick up flowers and decorations and food to make that moment for them as special as possible. I had ballons, flowers, a trail of roses, music for their first dance, and I decorated the patio where we can eat after. It was really nice. Fast forward a bit, and we were all moved out of my parents' house, and I received an invitation to their wedding. They wanted to have the wedding they didn't get to have. The wedding was going on the same month as a vacation I planned with my husband and our mutual friends. The wedding is a 5 hours drive, and we would have to get a hotel to stay overnight. At this time, I have a 9-month-old daughter, and kids are not allowed at the wedding. I did try my best to plan to go. I had a babysitter lined up, and my parents and my husband and I were going to drive down together and split the cost for travel and room expenses. Steph was aware of our plans. Long story short, my dad was extremely sick the week of the wedding and couldn't travel due to him being on dialysis. He called Steph and told her he couldn't make it. Steph called me and asked me if I was still going, and I told her IDK and that I'm trying to figure it out. Steph was mad at me and said I should have planned better and gave me a deadline to let her know if I'm coming or not. Later that day, she messaged me and told me not to bother and that she already removed my husband and I off the guest list. She stated again that I could have planned better and that she's really hurt and disappointed. She stated that when we all moved, I've never made an effort to come visit, but she's visited us too, 3 times, etc. I just apologized and told her that I want to be there and that the last-minute change in plans is what's making it difficult and that I couldn't afford to do the trip. She stopped responding, and the day of the wedding I sent her a MSG along the lines of, "I hope this day is everything you dreamed it would be," and apologized again for not being there. She never responded, and we haven't spoken since. I figured I'll reach out to her a few days after the wedding, but after I thought about it, I realized that my friend is extremely self-centered and decided against it. Here's why. When I moved out of my parents' place, my brother and I decided to get a place big enough for my husband and daughter and his pregnant wife and daughter. My brother and I get along very well, and we saw a great opportunity to save money by splitting the cost of living. When I talked about this with Steph, she had nothing but negative things to say, along the lines of, "If any of my friends see that, they would think you're weird, you should be an adult, etc." Another reason. When she moved out with Tom, they had a rocky start, and she called me daily to vent, and I made sure I was always available, and she knew I was there to support her. Another reason. When I told her I was pregnant, she was negative, and voiced how I should have this and that before getting pregnant, and that I'm crazy. My kid has never lacked in anything, and is extremely taken care of. Another reason. When I found out I was pregnant a second time, I told her and got the same reaction. Unfortunately, I ended up having a miscarriage. When I told her, her response was, "You were in your first trimester, these things happen." We never spoke about it again. She never checked on me. I cried for weeks and had to take time off work because of how upset I was that I lost a kid. This happened a month before her wedding. It's upsetting that she disregards everything that I did do for her. I was there when she got married the first time and was always supportive when she was down. She complained about us visiting, but I can't just drop everything and visit you. I have a family and a kid. Not to mention that on 2 other occasions, I told her that I'm able to visit, and she told me not to come on both occasions, but loves to say I didn't try to visit her. She even complained that it cost money to have me on the list, and I said I'll pay her back and asked her how much. She then says it's not about the money, but yet brings it up multiple times. Recently, I've been thinking about reaching out to her, but after typing this out, I don't think I should. My husband certainly thinks I shouldn't. She still talks with my parents, and I found out she's having a baby. IDK, should I bury the hatchet? I'm not a person who holds a grudge, but still. LMK, your thoughts? OP is not the AH for not attending her friend's wedding. Steph's dismissive, self-centered behavior and lack of empathy toward OP's struggles suggest the friendship was one-sided, and in this situation, avoiding people like OP's friend is the best option. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 and OP's friends 3 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from Icy-Purpose 4990. AITA for no longer being friends with someone who doesn't even know who they are at 35 years old? So, this friend started out as a co-worker. Most of my co-workers didn't have any patience for her, aside from myself and maybe 2 others. She definitely had her quirks with things like being high-strung, taking way too long to do certain tasks, making bigger deals out of things that truly didn't matter. She isn't a bad person by any means, but she bumped heads with a lot of people, and I definitely understand their frustrations. I felt bad for her, and the fact that she was always the odd man out, even though it didn't seem to bother her LOL. Also because it seemed as though she didn't have many friends in general, even though she supposedly went to this super prestigious college and was a debutante. So, when I would have little movie or wine nights at my house, I started to invite her, and she was super excited to be included. But this would end with her not leaving. Things would wind down. Everyone else would eventually go on their way. But not her. She would just make herself more comfortable and act like we were about to make a night of it. Even after giving the usual hints and saying things like, "Well, it's getting late." She wouldn't take the hint. I've never experienced someone acting this way, so I thought maybe I wasn't clearly conveying the fact that she needed to leave. This happened on a few occasions, with one time her claiming to be too drunk and just deciding to go help herself to laying down in my bed. I was completely taken aback, but also too tired to really deal with it, so in the morning, I expected her to just grab her stuff and go. Maybe even feel a little embarrassed that she just invited herself to a sleepover in my bed. Nope. She pops a squat at my kitchen table and asks if I have coffee. There were other things that happened as well. Even though she was in her mid-30s, she seemed to constantly be reinventing herself, which isn't necessarily a negative thing. But it would be because she liked a certain man and would turn herself into what she thinks they would want based on their hobbies, personality, likes. It reminded me very much of what high school girls do who have never been in a relationship before. So, they pretend to be someone else in order to get a guy's attention. For example, she liked this one guy. They only spoke over social media, even though he lived locally, and they had been chatting for over a year. He never made any attempt to meet her. It was clear to the rest of us that he was being polite and nice, but had no real interest in her. But she knew one of his things was that he loved and owned a certain breed of dog. I so happened to have owned that breed of dog myself. So, she wanted to have a wine night one evening. So, my friend and I are at my house waiting on her. We are just having a laid-back girls' night, and so we are basically in pajamas. She shows up dressed to the nines with a full face of makeup and hair freshly done, as if we are going out on the town. She then proceeded to ask where my dog is. Mind you, she's not an animal lover, and has never shown an interest in any of my pets really. So, my friend and I are just looking at each other really confused. She finds my dog, hands us her phone, and asks us to take a bunch of pictures of her with the dog. Has a full-on photo shoot with my dog LOL. Looking back on it, no, all I can do is laugh at how ridiculous it was. Of course, she posted the pics on social media, hoping to get the guy's attention. It didn't work the way she thought it would. We tried explaining to her in a nice way that if someone is truly interested in you, they will make an effort. But she's the type of person who has tunnel vision, and you can't tell her anything. Not too long after her failed photo shoot, she decided to randomly show up at his job to bring him a gift because she knew it was his birthday. Mind you, she has never met him before. They mostly talk on social media and have talked on the phone a few times. So, she just shows up at his job like a crazy person. She even takes a video with him and posted it online, and it's so second-handedly cringe and embarrassing because you can see how uncomfortable he is and just how awkward the entire thing is. Apparently, this also didn't go in her favor, and she stopped talking about him, blocked him on social media, and deleted the pictures of her and my poor dog from her page as well. But she was constantly doing things like this. Eventually, I, like everyone else, grew tired of her shenanigans, her lack of boundaries, the way she started to openly talk down on my other close friends because she didn't like them, and they didn't like her. She would make everything about herself. There was even an incident at my house where I was having a going-away party for one of my very close friends. My other friend and her husband, who were on the verge of a divorce, ended up having a verbal altercation, and she tried to stick her 2 cents in, which resulted in the husband slamming the door in her face as he was leaving. She got super upset and emotional and basically wanted everyone to baby and comfort her. She kept saying, "He knows me, he knows me. I can't believe he treated me like that." That was another thing she did that was very strange, by the way. She could have one interaction with a person and claim that she knows them and they know her, like in a close way, not a passing acquaintance type of way, if that makes sense. She would also just randomly call or text me and tell me that she was going to be in my area in the next 30 to 45 minutes and wants to know if she can stop by. I told her on several occasions that I'm not a last-minute type of person and I need more notice. She would say, "Okay," then literally a week later, try the same thing again. Needless to say, I got sick of giving her the benefit of the doubt, and her presence was just bringing drama and stress to my life. So I started distancing myself. She actually ended up moving away for a while, which helped. But she came back not too long ago, and she's been trying the same things again, calling me out of nowhere and asking if she can come over because she's going to be in my area. I have told her no every single time. I just can't do it anymore, and I know I already put up with way more than most people would. But I truly did feel sorry for her and thought that maybe having a friend would help. But she clearly needs more than a friend. Yes, as far as I know, she is in therapy and has been for quite a while. Maybe she needs to find a different outlet of some type. OP is not the AH for ending the friendship. She tried supporting her friend despite her boundary issues and self-centered behavior, but the stress and drama became too much. Prioritizing personal well-being over a one-sided friendship is reasonable and justified. As for scores, I would rate OP's friend 3.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Worried Auntie. AITA for calling out my sister as a mother in the family group chat. TL. DR. My sister neglects one of her sons, and I called her out for the family to see after she failed to take my nephew to a concert. She promised she'd take him to. My sister, Sarah, 35, and I, 30F, have never had a close relationship. Growing up, my father favored me, and our mom favored her. It was wrong, Sarah and I knew it, but we didn't know what to do about it, and it caused us to constantly be at odds with each other. Our parents divorced, so our time with our dad was great for me, less great for Sarah, and our time with our mom was great for Sarah, less great for me. As adults, we see each other around Christmas every year. Other than that, we don't really communicate except for the occasional family group chat exchange. My sister has 2 sons, Jackson, 15, and Ethan, 13. I've always known that Jackson is outgoing, bold, opinionated, and likes to be the center of attention. I've always known that Ethan is quiet and reserved, and until recently I thought he preferred to not have a lot of attention. But within the last year, I learned, realized, and experienced things that have completely changed my perspective, and I feel like a ant for it. First, until last Christmas, I thought Jackson and Ethan had the same father. I learned Jackson's father, who I haven't spoken to in over a decade, left Sarah after she cheated on him, hence Ethan. I suspect this is one of the reasons why Jackson and Ethan are treated differently and are just very different boys. Secondly, I realized that Sarah would always reach out to me and other family members on behalf of Jackson. If he had a sports game, if he was doing a fundraiser, or if he had a friend's birthday party or other social event to attend, she would ask us to attend, donate, or help him get to dash from his social event if she couldn't take him. Likewise, if he was suspended from school, having behavioral issues, or was just sick with like the flu or something, she would reach out to us for help, advice, etc. But rarely would we hear anything about Ethan. And regarding the school suspensions, she never told us that Jackson was suspended 99% of the time for bullying Ethan and Ethan's friends. They now go to separate schools because of this. 2 months ago, Sarah asked if someone could take Ethan to his school choir concert so she could attend parent conferences at Jackson's school. I was surprised to hear E was even in a school concert, because my understanding was that he didn't like performing or drawing attention. She said she could pick Ethan up after, and she just needed someone to take him, which I felt was odd, because she didn't ask anyone to go watch him perform. But I gave her the benefit of the doubt and thought maybe Ethan didn't want anyone to watch. I offered to take him, watch the concert if he wanted me to, and take him home. Oh, my heavens. This kid had a singing solo in one song, played an instrument in another song, and had the best stage presence I've ever seen from a teenager. He was smiling and clearly loved what he was doing. Afterwards, I talked to his choir director, who heaped so much praise on him. He talked about how he helps other students with reading music, helps with the younger choir, and is a model student. He sent E away for a moment, and then quietly asked if he gave me the performance schedule, if I could come to future concerts because no one else does. This shattered me. I took E home, and on the way there, I started asking questions. This is when I learned that Jackson bullied Ethan, and he opened up about how differently he's treated. I promised to be more present for him. Sometime after, Sarah was once again busy somewhere with Jackson, and Ethan was home. He started throwing up and called his mom. She reached out and asked if anyone else could go take care of him until she got home, so I did. He was so painfully sick. I told her she needed to come home, but it still took her 2 hours to do so. What were her and Jackson doing? Driver's ed. In what world is that more important than your sick child? 2 weeks later, 2 weeks ago from now, he broke his hand. This prompted me to try to do something special for E. I bought 2 tickets to the symphony and planned to take him, but wound up not being able to because I came down with pneumonia. I transferred the tickets to his mom and begged her to take him, and she said she would. I texted Ethan yesterday and asked how he liked it, but he didn't respond. So I called his mom. She didn't take him and didn't find anyone else to. Her reason? She was busy and forgot. But it's okay. Sarcasm, because she offered to refund the ticket price back to me. I went off on her in the family group chat and said she is being a mother. I told her I don't know if it's because she inherited the favoritism gene from our parents, knowing they would see it in the chat along with one of our aunts and one of our uncles, or if she is subconsciously punishing him because she cheated and got rightfully dumped, or if she's just negligent. But I told her that she needs to step up for her son. Of course, this has caused a group chat storm, and everyone is divided. At first, I felt justified, but some of the responses make me wonder if I went overboard. Should I have addressed this individually with Sarah? Am I an AH for calling her out in front of the rest of the family? Ethan texted me today and said, "I'm sorry. I didn't want to tell you I didn't go because I didn't want to hurt your feelings. Please don't hurt anyone's feelings. It's really okay." OP is not the AH. She was frustrated with Sarah's neglectful behavior towards Ethan, which needed to be addressed. Calling her out in the family group chat was harsh, but ultimately justified given the context of her repeated negligence. So, I would rate OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. As for OP's sister, I would rate her 3 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from Sleepy_treehugger. AITA for holding a grudge and enforcing a ban from our house on Christmas? My 34F stepfather-in-law, 44M, is pretty two-faced. When he and my mother-in-law, 63F, were separated, he lived with us. We were all living in brother-in-law's house while we found a house for ourselves. For almost a year, and was friendly and happy towards us, etc. While speaking about her and saying all sort of stuff, and saying he was never going back. But when they got back together, he was instantly cold, stopped all interactions with my partner, and did a complete 180 with his personality. My partner, 35M, completely supported him during this year, and took time out of his very busy work and family life to spend time together, taking him camping and fishing to get him out and mind off things, and helped him get through some pretty dark times. Back to around 1.5 years ago, my partner dislocated his shoulder a few weeks earlier, and we had to move. My partner asked him to help us because his shoulder was still not. He made it very clear he was busy. Okay, fine, but my partner has helped him and his mother every single time they moved, etc. Plus, father-in-law has a massive history of being super lazy and dirty. Even when he was being paid to be mother-in-law's carer, he would sit on the computer and not do anything for her, which was a massive reason she broke up with him. Tensions were already high. A few weeks later, his mother made a post about being mad that her support worker didn't show up because she needed to get some shopping done. My partner commented, "Where is stepfather-in-law? He's your partner and supposed to help you. Why can't he take you?" She said he was busy. Next thing, stepfather-in-law starts commenting, "How dare you? You guys just make up whatever you feel like and believe everything you dream up." Mother-in-law is also a schizophrenic and drug addict. This is important because she disassociates, makes up very elaborate stories, and lies. And father-in-law would back her up, even with very obvious evidence to the contrary. And this has caused very big problems over the years. We, on the other hand, have no reason to lie or make up stories and don't. My partner replied, "No, I asked a question. But what do you mean, you guys?" He replied. Funny question. You and me are constantly talking crap and disrespecting me with your comments. I found out later he was referring to my partner, saying directly to him that father-in-law suddenly never had time for him anymore. I had enough because it was nothing to do with me and spoke. WTF, have I done? Don't bring me into your crap. I say things to people directly. If I have an issue, I'm not a coward whining behind people's backs like you, he replied. You two are a couple, so you obviously think the same. My partner. I don't need permission to say things, and if I say something and she thinks I'm in the wrong, she will let me know and we talk about it. But we can both speak for ourselves. There was a bit more back and forth about how he didn't help in spite of my partner always helping them and being there, and him saying that we shouldn't keep score. True, but it's still behavior. Me, having had enough of his crap, told him he was no longer welcome in our house. FIL then blocked us both. Now to the issue. This stuff always gets swept under the rug and never spoken about again, except to about us to other family members. I have seen them every few months at family events, and mother-in-law visits our kids every month or so. I have not been to her house when he is there, but he attempted to attend my son's birthday last year, to which I said he wasn't welcome until he apologized for bringing me into things and calling me a liar. MIL came alone and started telling me that he's been meaning to apologize for bringing me into it, but didn't call me a liar. I said yes, he did, and showed the screenshots. She then said, "Oh, he just hasn't seen you yet. He had at about 5 family events, and how hard is it to unblock someone and say sorry? He has seen me at about 6 to 7 other events since, and acts like nothing has happened. Talking to me normally, acting all friendly. I have been civil but not overly friendly. Grey rocking it. I am tired of this pattern of ignoring issues and not changing or making any effort to resolve deep issues, and straight up disrespect, thinking he can just walk into my house when I told him he's not welcome. Mother-in-law mentioned that they would come here after their Christmas dinner with his family, so AITA, if I hold on to my grudge and tell stepfather-in-law, via mother-in-law because he still has us blocked, that he still isn't welcome in my house over Christmas? OP is not the AH. She set a boundary after being disrespected by her stepfather-in-law, and he hasn't made any effort to apologize or resolve the issue. Holding the grudge is justified, as he continues to act like nothing happened. As for scores, I would rate OP's stepfather-in-law 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets a 0. Let's now move on to the next story from Apple Banana. AITA for wanting better communication from my brother and sister-in-law. I, 35F, am my mum's 67F carer, officially, and I live with her and my dad, 76M, both are pensioners and have illnesses-disabilities. Currently, my mum has breast cancer, but she's finished chemo, and it's looking good. Now the main event. At the start of December, my sister-in-law, 47F, asked if I could look after my niece, 6F, and nephew, 9M, for a few hours on the 23rd of December while she's sleeping. She works nights, and my brother, 46M, would be at work. She said I could look after them at their house or at ours. I said that shouldn't be a problem, and we'll see where I look after them depending on how my mum is, if the kids are sick at all. She said fine, we can talk about it closer to time for the finer details. Fast forward to this week. My mum, who has nothing to do with this arrangement because why would she? She can't look after them, gets a message from my brother saying should he drop the kids at ours on the way to his work. I'm confused because I thought I had a choice, but okay. Mum messages him back and mentions that, and my brother replies saying that yes, my SEL will be sleeping, but when she wakes up, she has things she has to do before Christmas that she can't do while the kids are at home. So now I'm irritated. I haven't been asked if it's okay to have them for longer, and this isn't the first time they've pulled something like this, where they change things at the last minute. In my eyes, if you've asked someone for a favor, and then you need more from them, you should ask for the extra stuff you now need help with. This change would mean that they come to me at 9:30 a.m., and she normally sleeps till 1 to 1:30 p.m., so I don't know what she has to do, and for how long. But it seems like it's going to be a long day, so I will have to make sure I've got dinner to feed them, and rearrange things that I was planning on doing in the afternoon once she had got up and I was at home. Anyway, he has no other details for me, just that she's got stuff to do. So, I take the phone and let him know he's now talking to me. I tell him that I'm not happy, because they do this all the time, and this shouldn't have been sprung on me. I should have been told. I really should have said asked to him, but unfortunately, I didn't. And that he should be messaging me, not mum, because I'm the one that's looking after the kids. Side note, he goes to mum because he can guilt her into doing things for him. It's the reason we all got COVID one year, and mum and dad ended up in hospital with dad almost not making it. But that's another story. Anyway, he replied back saying that as it's always a problem for me, they won't be doing Christmas, and he's fed up with it always being a problem, and they won't ask again, and they'll see us whenever. Another backstory to mention for some extra info. The thing he's talking about with it always being a problem is the one previous time I refused to help them. This was half-term this year, a week off for the kids. I'd said I would help, and we'd have the kids at ours overnight on Monday, Tuesday, and they go home Wednesday. Well, my sister-in-law said that she wanted to do overtime, and could we have the kids for the whole week instead? I said, rightfully so, no, that's too much time. She ignored my mum for weeks, literally giving the cold shoulder, as I hadn't said it was me messaging her, because again, they don't message the person they actually need help from. I was going to tell my SIL it was me, but mum said not to. Also, she's been doing this every year, so maybe it's my fault in a way, because I, mentally, didn't have the capacity to say no before. Last year, the kids were at ours for overnight stays a total of 109 times. 3 weeks at a time, 3 times that year, plus some extra 1-week stays here and there. They didn't pay us, or give us food for the kids during most of these times, until I said we don't have enough money to feed your kids, as well as us. We are a household of 2 pensioners, and a career after all. Then they helped for the last 3-week stay. My mental health really suffered that year because it was extremely stressful for me to be looking after 2 children, as well as doing my normal care for my parents. This is why I say no or question them now when I don't like how something is handled, because I don't ever want to get that depressed again. I had a breakdown and basically said I'd rather not exist than live this way. They don't know about that, because the one time I said I was depressed, they said, and I quote, "What have you got to be depressed about? You don't even work." Back to the main part. Sorry for all the extra stuff, I just feel it needs it all. So, after he said that he was canceling Christmas, I gave him the same energy back. I said that if he wants to behave this way, then fine, it's not always a problem, and I'm not here to be his slave. All I said was, I'm not happy that they always change the plans. I called him selfish and ungrateful, which I sort of regret, because I'm normally better at keeping my cool. I finished it with saying about the number of things I've done for them, and then I have an issue one time, and they blow up like this. Now, I never said no in that entire conversation. I still would have helped. I just needed them to realize that they never message me about these things, and they don't communicate everything they need properly to me. So, AITA for wanting better communication? Should I just not have brought it up? OP is not the AH. She is setting reasonable boundaries after being overburdened, and it's valid to expect better communication and respect for her time. While the tone could have been calmer, OP frustration is understandable given the circumstances. As for OP's mom, she is an AH for her behavior, and for this, I would rate her 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets a 0. Let's now jump on to the next story from KLB Shaw. My best friend didn't check in on me when I had a serious injury. AITA for cutting ties? I, 30F, recently got a concussion the other week at work. I was taken to the hospital and advised to be off work for 2 weeks, as well as a bunch of physios, etc. afterwards. All that to say, it is no joke to have a TBI, traumatic brain injury. My friend, 27F, who I have known for 7 to 8 years and consider one of my best and closest friends, didn't check in with me or my partner for 3 whole days following my injury, despite knowing about the incident, my hospitalization, and subsequent time off work. Some context. I have known this friend, Sally, for almost 8 years. We worked together, met at work in the city we both used to live in. For 2 years, we both worked together plus hung out, and became increasingly good friends, both with bigger groups of friends, 1-to-1, and as a couple with her, now ex-boyfriend, and my partner. When my partner and I moved out of the city during the pandemic, she visited me about 1.5 years later in the new town I was living in with her new partner. We hadn't stayed closely in touch during the pandemic, but everyone's lives were crazy, so I didn't think twice about that. They stayed with us for a week, and her new partner Joe fit in well with my partner and I too. She was so happy about this. Shortly thereafter, they moved to the same town as well. Since we regularly spend time together, US 2 couples, or just Sally and I, for example, we go on a run or to the gym together weekly. We also have a larger group of our friends. Additionally, Sally's now boyfriend Joe has a job at the same place that I work. Him and I work together daily and have also become good friends. Similarly, Joe and my partner are good friends too, and will hang out just the two of them as they have mutual hobbies. The 4 of us also regularly do recreational activities together on the weekend too. Sally knows my parents, I know hers, and we've gone on some trips together. All that to say that I think of her and Joe as very close friends whom I could rely on if it hit the fan. Something about my friend Sally is that she does have a lot of other friends. She is one of those people that is quick to make friends, so she does have a large social circle. This is something I've always found fine-endearing about her. Despite our differences, I am more of a have a few close friends type of gal, because she has always made lots of time for us, either with us without our partners. Fast forward to today. It hit the fan in my life. I know that she knew about my incident without me telling her because her partner Joe works with me, so he was one of the first to find out. Sally didn't connect with me for over 3 days about my injury, despite my partner communicating to Joe my fairly concerning state. In contrast to this, my other close and less close friends have been reaching out regularly and asking if I need anything. Many whom I haven't known for as long don't spend as much time with. They've followed up and checked in. Joe came by after work one day to drop some of my things off, check in. Sally didn't join and still was yet to acknowledge this happened to me. Even my colleagues, bosses, and some of the people who I serve in my community-based job have reached out to me, my partner via text and email to send well wishes to me and offer to help me following this TBI. I know I'm not the center of the world, but I tried to give Sally the benefit of the doubt and wondered if for some bizarre reason Joe had not told Sally. Finally, 3 days later, Sally messaged me saying she heard about my concussion and hoped I was okay. I replied, answering her questions, and also asked her in a casual way if this was the first she was hearing about it. She answered, saying that Joe had told her the day it happened, but she hadn't had time to reach out because she was stressed and busy. I was shocked, but still, I asked her how she was doing personally and followed up about a weekend plan I knew she was looking forward to. Keeping in mind I had a brain injury, so I was using voice notes to voice to text to communicate, and in a dark room with a splitting headache, unable to even make myself a meal. She answered about her plans. I said I hoped she had an awesome time and wished I could be there too. Then she ghosted. It's been another 3 days, and I haven't heard from her since. By comparison, My other friends and colleagues even have followed up. Now, I'm wondering if I've read into this friendship wrong for the past few years. Does she not value my friendship as much as I value hers? Is it because she has so many friends? My partner and I both don't think that there is any jealousy from Sally about my relationship with Joe, and my partner also thinks it's very strange that she is acting this way. She has been a bit flaky on plans and not communicating as well leading up to when I got my TBI, but I've continued to reach out and try to maintain the friendship. Am I working too hard for someone who doesn't care about me? She doesn't handle conflict well, avoidant, can be people-pleasing. So no, I have not brought any of this up to her. Also, I'm wondering if I'm overreacting due to the state that I'm in with my brain injury. I don't think I could mentally handle a conflict right now, but I'm thinking about this, our relationship, basically every day, feeling kind of heartbroken about this friendship. TLDR, I had something big-serious go on in my life. Land this a best friend is putting in zero effort to even send a text to check in on me. Am I overreacting? OP is not the AH for cutting ties with her friend. OP is understandably hurt by her friend's lack of concern, especially after a serious injury. While OP's state of mind due to the injury could amplify feelings, the friend's response is inconsiderate and neglectful. So, OP's friend is an AH, and I would rate her 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets a 0. Let's now jump onto the next story from Mercurial-Hawk. AITA, for not wanting to hang out with my dad's new family. I'm 31, F, and my dad is 60. My parents were married for 35 years before my mom was diagnosed with cancer a year and a half ago. She died 2 months after the diagnosis. For me, it was one of the lowest moments in my life. My mom was one of the people I loved most. My parents never had a perfect marriage and had many differences throughout the years. My dad started to be present-absent when I started to work after college, leaving the house finances to me and my mom, which wasn't easy to manage. Mom also got in charge of house chores, so we were burned out for many years. In 2019, my grandpa, Mom's dad, came to live with us since my aunt, his sister, attacked him and tried to burn him alive. She was diagnosed later with Alzheimer's and could get pretty violent. We started to take care of her and eventually placed her in a nursing home. I took on 3 jobs to help my mom with finances. I also learned to drive, and I was able to go and do many errands, like going to my aunt's, the nursing home, picking up my mom from work, etc. When my mom had cancer, I reunited money for her amongst family and friends, since my dad was too shy to ask, because what would people think if we begged for money? I took her to most of the appointments, chemo, doctor's office. I knew her medication. She fell down the stairs and had an accident. He wasn't home, and when the paramedics asked who would ride with her, guess who did? In her last moments, Dad did not want to go and see her because he was working and arrived at the hospital when she had passed. When my mom died, me and my boyfriend, 32M now husband, became the primary caretakers of my grandfather, since my dad had nothing to do with him and wouldn't help me out. That year, he was diagnosed with dementia. I couldn't sleep for months until the doctor found the medication that worked best for him. My dad started dating 3 months after my mother's passing, and I was deeply affected by that. He used to have access to my credit card since he wrecked his finances, but we agreed that if he paid it every month, there wouldn't be an issue. He spent all his salary taking women out, started drinking heavily, but I was the one who was going through it. I remember how at least 2 times I had to take my grandpa to the hospital at night alone, since my boyfriend left to his hometown for the holidays, while my dad was with a lady. I have to mention that my grandpa and my dad never had a sore relationship, but my dad told me he grew sore that he had to live with us for 4 years. I cut his access to my credit card, and shortly after, he got fired from work because they were cutting their budget. He spent his severance, which was a considerable amount of money, since he had worked 6 years there. He still dated different women and had a prospect which was a friend, but had on reserve if the one he wanted did not work out. Spoiler, it didn't. His then date did not want a serious relationship and had told him months ago, but my dad insisted that would change. He then, 2 weeks after that, went to visit the friend he had on reserve and started a new relationship. That was in June. It was the anniversary of my mother's passing. I remember him texting me on the bus to meet this woman how much he missed talking to my mum and showed me a screenshot of a WhatsApp conversation with her through DM. This lady lives about 300 miles from our city, on a much smaller one. Since my dad started this relationship, basically with zero money, me and my boyfriend had to be the providers of the house. He was planning to go and live with her until he would receive his retirement allowance, starting in 2025. He miraculously landed a new job after months of searching, and now he will have his retirement money plus a really good salary. After my mum's death, he was a jerk to me. My mum had some money saved in the bank for the retirement, and when I asked for half of it, I gathered most of the documents. He agreed in front of my boyfriend, and then wanted to keep it all for himself when the money was going to be deposited. A friend of his convinced him to give me half. It wasn't much money, and I would use it to fix our car and pay the expenses of my grandpa, which he never did. He spent his half on courting women on restaurants and bars that were way out of our social status. This year, a friend of mine went to Spain to get a master's degree. She offered to host us so we wouldn't pay a hotel, and my boyfriend found cheap tickets, so we had a fun trip on a budget. My dad stopped talking to me because he was infuriated that he had to take care of my grandpa while I was away. In 5 years, I had only gone on vacation once, in 2023. My dad started this relationship, and everything skyrocketed from there. He started spending half of the month away at the lady's house. My boyfriend and I decided to marry and move in together with my grandpa in September. Last month, my dad told me he is marrying this lady next April and wants me to spend time with her and her family. She has an only child, a daughter, just like my dad, and they think we could be the best friends ever. By the way, this lady has context at least of the date of my mother's passing, and even sent my dad a video of her cutting her hair in honor to my mom, which I found creepy. But my dad almost cried. My dad told me I'm being selfish to not accept his new life because I told him I respect his relationship, but I am not ready to take on a new family dynamic even though he is. I know his relationship with my mom was complicated and she was not perfect. He has the right to do whatever he wants, despite my opinion on his decisions. But I'm still grieving for one of my best friends, and I don't want to be at events and pretend everything is fine. I told him I could talk to his girlfriend, soon-to-be wife, about why I don't want a relationship right now, but he said no. It makes me sick how hard he is pushing for it, with the lady and the daughter sending me gifts. I used to love to hang out with my dad, but now I feel like I don't have one. That he changed me for the perfect, put-together, wealthy Christian family that my mother and I could never be. AITA for wanting to be left alone and not want to join his new family? P.S. I don't know how to talk to my dad anymore, since the lady moved into our city and is now living with him. He basically takes her everywhere. I just want for him to understand the way we grieve is different, and that I'm not selfish because of that, but it's a bit sickening on how he wants to join two families and forget about his past life. If you have any advice, it's also welcomed. OP is not the AH for not wanting to hang out with her dad's new family, especially because she is still grieving her mum, and is understandably uncomfortable with their father's quick move on and blending of families. It's okay to need time and space, especially given the emotional weight of recent events. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye, see you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.